Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Codiak and I'm the raid leader for Exiled Power on Arthas, and we are back with another top 10 video. Last time we covered the top 10 tips for raid leaders, and today we're going to cover the top 10 rules for raiders. So as you know, I am a raid leader of a 2-day progressive guild and I love what I do. But you know, these rules that I'm about to talk about go for everybody. They go for casual players, they go for hardcore players. Not in the best order that I could think of, but I think they're all really important. So it was really hard to create, a top 10 list for them. But let's jump right in. Let's see what we got here. Number 10, know the game plan. Now this is straightforward, guys. This is straightforward. The raid leaders, the officers, they're going to come up with a plan. Even if you're in LFR, somebody is going to come up with some kind of plan, whether it be terrible and run in and attack everything, or if it's actually a well drawn out plan and say a heroic or a mythic group. You are responsible for knowing that plan, whether that be a private message to an officer or talking to somebody on a council or a senior raider or somebody who's done it before. Your job is to understand what the raid team is doing, because it's on you. Right? If you show up to a raid and you're just like, oh, I'm just gonna try my best, do what I do. That's not enough. You have to know the plan, because knowing the plan is half the battle. If you come in and you're ready to go, you know what the boss does, you know what the team's plan is for attacking that boss and accomplishing the goals of the guild. I think you're going to be setting yourself up for success. If you don't do that, you're really detrimenting yourself and detrimenting the people around you. So that's number 10. Know the game plan. Number 9, just because you've killed a boss 200 times doesn't mean that the 201st time is going to be easy. Now, that was kind of a mouthful, but let me explain. So right now, in Mythic HFC, Manoroth is scaled and tuned very strangely for some of the changes that Blizzard has put in, specifically the item level upgrades. What Blizzard has done is basically given us these item level upgrades and made us super powered, right? All of the content is now a little bit easier. Well, what that means is timing changes and things change, guys. As you get better gear, as your guild gets more comfortable with things are going to change, and sometimes that doesn't make things always easier. So just because you've killed a boss 200 times doesn't mean you can sit and rest on your laurels. You have to come back. You have to come back with an attitude that says, we're going to do this, we're going to have an effective night, and we're going to raid hard, and we're going to get these things down. And if it doesn't work, you have to be ready to adapt. You have to be ready to change your plan, change what you're doing, and whatever it takes to get the boss down. Again, for example, we've started Mythic Manoroth with 3 healers, and we progressed on him with 3 healers, and we cleared him on 3 healers, and we farmed him on 3 healers. Well, all of a sudden, our timing is so off. Our timing is super off, and we're passing phases way too quickly. Abilities are overlapping, and it's really tough for us. So we made the executive decision the other day to just go to 4 healers, something that we had never done for that fight. And sure enough, we reset the timing. Everything was kind of back to a place where we were comfortable with it. And we had been wiping, 7-8 times a night. And that's really frustrating for a guild that's had a boss on farm for months now. So that's it. Don't rest on your laurels. Make sure that every night you're going into raid, you're going in with a fresh attitude saying, we're going to get this stuff done. We're going to work hard. Number 8. Listen more than you speak, but never be afraid to ask questions. Some people may disagree with me. Some people may like a really open and public forum type guild. But when we're progressing on a boss, the plan is laid out and everything has been kind of set in stone. Especially when things are working and all you need is attempts. The worst possible thing is delaying the time between pulls. Although we joke around with it in our guild all the time, we call ourselves Exiled Downtime. We do really well at keeping people on point and keeping the pulls coming. Because what's really important is making sure that you're utilizing the time allotted in your night, right? And what that means is you can't have extraneous conversations. You got to keep everybody focused. But the second side, the other side of that coin, is you have to create an environment where people are comfortable asking questions, right? This goes along with knowing the game plan and not resting on your laurels. People have to be comfortable to say to the raid leader, hey, I don't get this. I don't know what's going on. I don't think this is working. Can you explain this to me? And that's really important. If you guys don't do that, one, you need to have a conversation about if the guild is open to that kind of conversation, because it should be. You should be able to ask questions without anybody jumping down your throat. But the other side of that is you are part of a team, and as part of a team, you have to be on the same page as the rest of your teammates. So never be afraid to ask questions, guys. Never be afraid to pull up a chair with your officer or raid leader and say, look, I'm doing the best I can. I don't get this. Can you explain it to me? Can you explain to me why this is working, why it's not working? And sometimes they may say, look, I don't have the time right now. Trust me, this is working. Let's talk after the raid. Because sometimes talking during the raid is not the most conducive time. But if he says, this is what it is, and you ask a question and he answers you, perfect, boom. Problem solved, move on, let's kill a boss, right? Real simple. All right, number 7. There's always someone better than you. And this is so true because I am not the best player in the world. Everybody in my guild will say that I am not the best player in the world, and I'm okay with that because I know that to be true. What I also know to be true is that there are way better players than me in the guild. So what I'll do is I'll talk to my hunter friends. I'm a hunter, if you didn't know that. I'll talk to them and I'll say, look, what are you doing differently than me? How can I play better? How can I hit more aim shots? How can I make sure that my Chimera shots off cooldown, or I'm ready to hit it off cooldown every single time? And that's just a conversation, guys. That's just looking at logs. That's totally a thing that's in your control and that you should be doing every raid. If you're the only Windwalker monk, if you're the only whatever, warlock in the raid, that's fine. But you can always go back and look at resources of people that are playing better than you. Never assume that you're the best in the business. Even if you're ranked number 1 in the world, day in and day out, there is always somebody that you can learn from, and there's always somebody that's going to teach you something that you didn't know. 99.9% of us are going to be in this realm of always wanting to learn how to play our class and always working to improve ourselves. Yeah, we're probably not the top 1% of 1%, but that's a good thing. That means that we have places to grow and improve, and that's really important for raiders, especially as you're pushing content. All right, number 6, pull your weight. If you're not pulling your weight, don't give up. So pulling your weight means a few things. Pulling your weight means showing up on time. Pulling your weight means being prepared with potions, flasks, food, all that sort of stuff. And pulling your weight means giving 110% every single pull. As a raid leader, if I'm looking back at logs, if I'm looking back at an encounter and I see that, Johnny is, he's doing okay on some attempts, but other attempts he's just not pulling his weight. That's a really tough conversation to have, because you're starting to talk about, should I pull Johnny out? Is he not cutting it? Because what that means is you're going into autopilot mode and you're really not paying attention for some of your pulls. Yes, there are times where there'll be bad procs, there'll be times where things just aren't going your way, and I totally get that. I totally get that as a marksman hunter. We joke around all the time that somebody's getting more procs than me. But showing up and pulling your weight means every single attempt you're laser focused. You are in there and you are doing your best to make sure that the guild is progressing towards a boss kill. And if you're not pulling your weight, don't get discouraged, okay? Use all of the things we just talked about, using different resources, using fellow raiders, and figure out a way to get to a place where you're pulling your weight. It's as simple as that, guys. Pulling your weight, as simple as that. Using the resources available to you, knowing your class, and really going hard in the paint, making sure that you are doing everything you can to see that the guild is being successful. Alright, number 5. Autopilot is the number 1 cause of raid wipes. This, I cannot talk about this enough. I just can't. I cannot tell you guys, even as a 13 of 13 Mythic Guild, how many times we wipe on stupid shit because somebody, oh, they didn't bubble the right time, or they hit the wrong cooldown, or, oh, they blinked and broke chains and everybody died. That was to you, Wizard. Or any of the other million things that can go wrong during a raid because somebody wasn't paying attention. Number 1 cause of raid wipes. It's not poor strategy. It's not raid comp. It's not, I don't know. I don't have any other examples. All I know is that autopilot is the number 1 cause of wipes. I am guilty of it too. I'm preaching to you guys that you should never go into autopilot mode, but it's happened, and it happens to me, and it will happen to you. Your job is to try and get yourself focused, put yourself back in the place that says, look, we need to kill bosses, we need to progress as a team, and then do everything in your power to make sure those don't happen. And if that means taking your hand off the keyboard, that's fine. This is not a moving car, okay? Jesus, take the wheel. This is fine. Make sure you're doing everything in your power to stay focused on the goals of the guild, stay focused on the goals of the raid team, and do everything that you can to not be that guy, because no one likes that guy. No one likes him. All right, number 4. It's the raid leader's job to form the plan. It's your job to know your role in the plan. We preach this in Exiled Power, left and right. We preach that we will come up with a plan. We will be prepared for you to kill a boss. But it's your job to know how you fit into that plan. Whether you're a healer, a melee DPS, a ranged DPS, a tank, you need to know how you fit into our plan. Because if you go in having one plan and we go in having another plan, you're only setting yourself up for failure. You really are. And once you get really comfortable, guys, and once you get used to doing this on a daily basis, raiding in, HFC or any of the Legion content that's coming up, you're going to start to understand that you need to know your role as well as the other roles around you. Knowing what the healers are doing, knowing what the tanks are doing, knowing what the DPS are doing, it's all really important. Because if I'm sitting there as a raid leader and I'm watching you screw over the melee or screw over the healers because you're doing something dumb, what that says to me is that you don't know the fight as well as you should. And you need to go back to the drawing boards, see what you can do to improve and help the lives of the raiders around you. There's a lot of, not self-absorption, but there's a lot of, okay, I know my class and I'm good. I'm done. And that's not true. Okay? It's the raid leader's job to form the plan. It's your job to know how you fit into that plan and how everybody else fits into that plan. And this is a loose rule. This is not a rule that's set in stone, but this is going to make you guys more successful. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. All right. Number 3. This is a little hippy-dippy, but the raid is a living, breathing thing. Now, this speaks more to the environment of the raid, not necessarily the mechanics and killing bosses and the foundation of the guild. But at the end of the day, the raid is made up of X amount of players, 20 players, 25 players, whoever, or however many. It's a living, breathing thing. It's got 20 opinions. It's got 20 personalities. There's so much going on in a raid, and it truly is one of the things in the world where you're all equals. There's nothing in this game that says you have to respect me. I could be the guild master of the best guild in the world, and there's nothing in the game that's going to say, oh, you should probably listen to me, right? So what that means is we should show up to raid every day and have an attitude that we want to help each other out. We want to down content and kill bosses together as a team, not as, a cocky, know-it-all that's just causing people problems, getting people really pissed off. That's the last thing anybody wants. So yes, the raid is a living, breathing thing. We could talk about this for hours, because I could go on and on and on about this. But what's really important for you guys to remember is that at the end of the day, you need to show up with a positive attitude. Okay? The last thing people want to see is a raider that's causing problems, that's bad-mouthing other raiders, that's just being rude and surly. Nobody wants that. So remember, the raid is a living, breathing thing. Do your best to show up with a positive attitude. Give a shit about the people that you're playing with, and everything will be fine. Talk out your issues, communicate with one another, use your officers as a foundation of the guild, and yeah, everything will be fine. As you can see here, I am getting absolutely trounced in this. I was not really paying attention. I'm totally going to die here. But that's okay. You guys can all get a laugh at that. All right, number 2. I should turn this volume down. This is loud. All right, number 2. Always go back and see what you can improve upon. This applies to every single player that has ever played World of Warcraft, especially in a progressive, mythic-pushing content kind of way. Warcraft logs, Ask Mr. Robot, all of these tools are available to us as raiders, and we want to make sure that we're using them to reinforce our good and fix our bad behavior. These tools make it so simple for us to look at what we're doing wrong, look at what other players are doing right, and copy them, and learn from the mistakes of us or other raiders. We use Warcraft logs in our guild and Ask Mr. Robot in our guild as kind of a double check. And what we're doing is we're looking for discrepancies. We're looking for issues with our raiders, with our tanks, with our melee, with our healers. We're looking for places where we can improve upon. And what we're also doing is comparing that information to other raiders and seeing what they're doing right. Maybe I'm taking a certain talent that the top tier raiders aren't taking. Well, I'm not just going to blindly take that, but I'm going to use the tools that I have to say, okay, why is he doing that? Why is he taking this ability that I thought wasn't as good? And I'm using those tools and really figuring out what I can be doing to improve upon my play style. And you do that as a raid leader. You can do that as a raider. It is not exclusive to one or the other. Put your best foot forward. Do your homework and really look at what you can do to improve upon. All right. Finally, the number one rule of raiding, is be prepared. As simple as they come, the gold standard of rules, being prepared will solve 99% of the problems you have in a raid. If you show up to a new boss, you've done your homework, you're prepared across the board from a flask perspective, from a boss strat perspective, from a gear perspective. If you are prepared to raid, you are going to be successful. And that is so much deeper than you guys may think it is. This means that you've talked to your officers. This means that you've done all the daily dungeons and heroics and faction things that you need to be totally successful for the raid. You're enchanted. All of the simple things that you guys can be doing to be ready for the raid. And the final step to that is coming to raid every night with the mentality that you're prepared for that night's raid, right? You're coming to the raid with this mentality that we are going to get this stuff done. I am going to do my part to be prepared so that the guild is successful. And that may seem a little redundant, but being prepared is so important in this game, because you'll see guilds that'll wipe on, even if you go on Reddit and you look at some of the mythic stuff, you look at some of these guilds that are doing mythic content and they're wiping 300 times on Manaroth, 300 times on Archimon, and you look in their logs and you say, what the heck, guys? You're not ready to do this. You're not ready to do this because you have a bad class comp. You have players that are taking wrong talents. You have players that aren't flasks. You have players that aren't using potions in the fight. You're not prepared to do this encounter. Now, I'm not in every single raid. I don't see what people are doing and what strats they're doing. I can only watch videos and then make my judgment after that. But I can get a pretty damn good baseline as to what players are doing good and what players are doing wrong, just by looking at their logs and going through that stuff. So being prepared is the number one rule for raiding. That gets you 80% of the way. 80% of the way. The rest of it is execution. And that's on you guys. That's on you guys to make sure you're doing your homework, you're playing your class to the best of your ability, and you're using the resources around you. Raiding is all about using the tools that we have around us. And by doing that, you guys will be more successful, your guild will be more successful, and everybody will be moving forward in the direction that they want. And that's really, really important. Alright guys, quick and dirty, that was my top 10 tips and rules for raiders. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to drop a subscribe below if you liked what we're doing. Hopefully there'll be more videos to come. Who knows? This is kind of a new thing for us. And make sure to follow us at exiledpower.com and twitch.tv/exiledpowerus. Take care.